Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is the inaugural episode of Mark at the Moon, the new podcast that's basically the same old podcast between me, DMPunk, not me, DMPunk, between me, Ryan Mooney, and DMPunk, as always, joining
Ew.
me. Yeah, getting the show off to a really good start. This is basically an extension of the podcast that we used to have on my Atomic Moon YouTube channel, but I wanted to make sure to distance this train wreck of a podcast as far away from my own personal brand as humanly possible. And so now we're here. Now I'm excited. This is going to be hopefully a weekly podcast that we're going to be able to throw together and get out to our tens of followers and tens of listeners and give them some really good content to listen to. So how are you today, DM Punk? How are you? How excited are you for the future of this podcast and for the future of the world?
Oh, I'm excited. I think that I thought that we changed the name because that denoted like such a turning point in history when the first AEW defection had happened. I thought that's what we were denoting this for. I thought that's what it was, but or maybe the beginning of a new race season. But I thought it was for some. But no, I like the idea. I love the new name. I love the new look. Here we are.
Yeah. New look, but same old look from my boy DM Punk. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been keeping up with our podcast series, DM Punk is currently incarcerated. Currently, is only being able to talk to us through a payphone that is being heavily monitored.
Of Justin Trudeau,
Yes,
the now dictator of the country I'm trapped in.
trapped, just like the best 2000s band that ever came along. So you alluded to it. It's dawning of a new NASCAR season, dawning of a new generation of motor vehicle and motorsport, dawning of possibly a new future champion in Austin Cindric. Ladies and gentlemen, the Daytona 500 was this past weekend. I was watching it. DM Punk was watching it. And DM Punk, what are some of your takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the new car. We never really got the chance to see them break away because of the way cautions fell in the last stage and throughout the deal. But I think if there's a green flag one, we'll have, which there probably will be. There's three more chances for in those cars. This week will be a lot more telling because this week is the real car. The car they use this week is the car they use at every track except for Daytona and Talladega. So except for 4 races of the year, they'll use this car the rest of the way, whether it's a road course, short track, or full like a mile and about more than a mile and a half. This weekend they're at Auto Club, which is 2 miles. So the longest really that's not a restrictor plate race.
Should be an exciting race at the Auto Club Speedway. They've been joking around that they're going to repave that. But
I don't think that's a joke. I heard they're really doing that after that. As soon as this race is over, I heard they're doing that. Like I heard they were doing it before, but they decided not to because they weren't sure they were gonna have a race anymore. You know, for a while when everything happened, and there weren't any races for or any fans at races, they weren't sure what to do, and so they stopped, waited, and now I think we'll see this Sunday. I don't know. Maybe they don't. I hope they don't. I like this track much better, but I think a short track would probably be more an entertaining situation there because a 2 mile track is really only fun if you're watching on TV, and even then, it's unless a lot of cool stuff falls the right way, or unless maybe these cars are just super exciting to watch. I think 2 mile track is more of kind of a for the nerds track because it's going to be kind of a fuel mileage type situation track. A lot of hold it wide open. Uh, very it's a very tactical track and it's fun because it's so long. But and it's when the Indy cars used to race there, it's the greatest race that is possible. Oh my God, the Indy cars there is fucking poof, too fast.
I know that you're a huge fan of Auto Club Speedway. I know, especially whenever they race Indy cars there. I think there's more people that listen to our podcast than usually attends those races in real life. But maybe it's because you said these races are much more entertaining if you actually watch them on television compared to actually seeing it in person.
Out in the middle of the desert in California. Yeah, by the old foundry where they built all the ships in World War II. Fontana.
But we're getting kind of on a tangent about Fontana. So much went down this past weekend from trucks to ARCA to Xfinity, and then what in my opinion was a way better NASCAR race, NASCAR Cup race that I was expecting. I honestly was very surprised to see how much they were running in packs because I thought there was going to be a lot more split between a lead group and some other secondary groups, but maybe just the abundance of cautions and yellows and stage breaks and things of that nature that take place within this modern era of NASCAR that the cars really weren't allowed or didn't have the ability or the opportunity to get spread out, and thus we were left with a pretty standard form of pack racing that we're used to seeing from Daytona and Talladega.
Man, I thought Bubba was going to win though in the Cup race. I sure did. I When he turned down right there, thought he is gonna get him, and he almost did. He almost got Cindric. But man, when he turned down, I thought he is gonna get. And I really thought it was also cool when Blaney after the race was kind of pissed for doing what Blaney does at at what he nearly killed fucking uh, Ryan
Yeah.
Newman last year doing. Like, come on, dude. What a what? Oh my gosh.
Speaking of killing people, Brad Keselowski.
Oh my God, Brad Keselowski. Oh my goodness. Did you give that man his own team, and he's a lethal. He's like an assassin out there now. Did he get some new feat that we don't know about? Like I don't know, man. He's got an extra one of those per day, like to kill people now.
Yeah, I there was so much going on that final lap that I really didn't see. Keselowski just absolutely murders Ricky Stenhouse. He almost Newman Stenhouse. If Stenhouse if they'd been on the inside of the track rather than being on the outside, then I'm sure that would have been way worse than it actually was. But yeah, two pretty
Yeah, right,
blatant incidents with Brad Keselowski.
right before it happened, I said, "Oh, Sticky Denhouse Jr. is about to wreck the entire field here," and then he gets wrecked himself. And I mean, so it's I'm still right, but either way, he causes a wreck that causes so much carnage. I liked that Logano got his kind of early. I think that's also some of what kind of, even though they never got a chance to make really green flag pit stops and have them count where they would break away and stuff like that. Even though that's because that's kind of what we were talking about. But even though that never really got to happen, I still feel uh, like it was a pretty clean, like you said, cleanish race comparatively. Even though we never got that, I still feel like it was clean enough that you got to see kind of what they could do. They probably learned some stuff that they need to do differently. Obviously, some stuff with the flaps that come up that are supposed to keep the car from going airborne. On the Cup cars, that was a little bad, and then obviously didn't work on on the Xfinity cars the night before, because he on the last lap of the Xfinity race he got completely upside down, and that car came apart. I liked the call by I think it was Kurt Busch during the Xfinity race the night before, who was as they watched it in slow motion. Where's the engine? Where's the engine?
Yeah, yeah, that was a very yeah. You think about Ty Dillon, not Ty Dillon, Austin Dillon, and his wreck at Daytona. That was a very similar wreck that happened in the Xfinity series that took place right in front of Michael Jordan as they were showing the replays. He got an
Part
up.
of it went into his hauler or his I call it a hauler. It's his motorhome.
Yeah, yeah. So that was definitely a scary scene. And then the wreck. Oh my god, my mind just went blank. The wreck that happened in the Cup car with the flip. Not just with that particular incident, but it seemed like I'm thinking about Kyle Busch. His little flap that's on top of the car to keep it from turning over. His was like getting disconnected and was just kind of flapping in the breeze. And
Yeah, that's something I think they're gonna have to work on. That, and then there was hood ones on. They're a little different from manufacturer to manufacturer, so they're in a little different places. Also, if you look at the hood louvers, they're a little different. Like the Toyotas are totally open, whereas the Fords have like those tapered back louvers and stuff like that. The ones on the hood. But anyway, the air flaps that you're talking about, yeah, the on a lot of the cars, especially the Fords, they were the ones on the hood of the car were coming up just randomly throughout the race, and they were letting them keep going because it was a new car and stuff. But those are really they're not supposed to be, like up. Like if that happens, they're supposed to black flag you and make you come in and put those back down. But because of what everything being new and stuff, they would have had to do it to so many people. I don't think they were going to do it.
And then not only that, but several tire issues with your boy Chaz Gralla. Is that his name, Chaz Gralla? With the Ford.
Yeah, it's probably had to do with him having some sort of a camber issue. You know what I'm saying? Like they probably either had some sort of a setting off or something, because there is still a lot of variable adjustment even in the speedway cars. You know what I mean? And it's the same for all the teams. And there's probably some adjustment that they did that was just too extreme for the new lower sidewalls, and it just kept causing. I'm guessing it's camber. It had probably had something to do with camber, and it was just wearing the hole in the sidewall or in the tire or something like that, and causing it to collapse on that. Or maybe they're just running too low of uh, a combination of that and running too low of a tire pressure or something like that. Everything you need to know about NASCAR this weekend, though, happened in the Truck Series. You could look at it all right there. You saw like the changing of the guard just in the Truck Series alone, because we saw that probably the rest of the season we're going to see. We're going to have to like get our mind around the fact that like Haley Deegan is going to run way out ahead, while Matt DiBenedetto now tries to get points in the Truck Series.
Yeah, most definitely. Matt DiBenedetto.
Only been 2 short years since he was crying in the middle of Bristol, and everybody was, getting him a job at Wood Brothers.
Yeah, it seems like quite a long time ago. But very exciting weekend of racing. We got IndyCar coming up this next weekend.
St. Petersburg street race.
The debut of the season of IndyCar. Usually not
Grosjean,
usually not the most exciting race, but IndyCar nonetheless.
Grosjean and an Andretti, and Andretti's making a Formula One team in a couple of years, and Grosjean's in an Andretti and Formula One. Anyway, and and then the new Formula One cars have come out, and obviously the Ferrari's the fastest. We can all see that. But let's talk about the other losers. The ones who are not quite as fast. Looks like the Williams is probably going to be the second fastest. That's wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
as soon as Handsome George steps up and moves on to Mercedes, Williams
oh,
looking.
George already has the faster Mercedes. That's, you can tell when you see him. You can tell Lewis is like talking to him, like, "Hey, what's this piece?
is it a
Where's that on mine, guys?
is it a
What
faster car? Or is it a faster driver?
Well, I mean, that's why they gave him the faster cars. They know that the data shows that. We have data simulator data now, and plus Lewis is broken after last year. He should have quit. That was it. He threw he just got finished throwing a, what is that, about a 3.5 month temper tantrum that ended in Michael Massey getting fired. So no, now we, instead of Michael Massey for a race director, now we have the fun police, and they're going to make sure through instant replay that we don't have any more fun, no matter what.
Well, we all know that uh, with VAR being used in other sports, the VAR is infallible, and there's nothing controversial that can ever result from a
Works
play or
perfectly.
yeah.
Hasn't ruined soccer. Hasn't cost the Cowboys the Super Bowl.
Well, also running the ball without having enough time to clock the ball is also probably something that prevents you from winning a Super Bowl.
I was talking about the Cowboys before, when they were good, when they had a good quarterback.
And I was just taking a quick jab at modern day Cowboy
When our,
fans.
when our savior Tony Romo was the quarterback.
And now he's the savior of Skechers.
He's always been the savior of Skechers and Corona. No, not that Corona though. Like a better, like the beer.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, a lot of cars from Formula One making their debuts. Some paint schemes. The is it the AlphaTauri had the racing point? Not AlphaTauri. Man, I can't think today.
The Alpine is going to have a
Alpine.
pink for the first two races, and then they're going to switch to a more blue with less pink livery for the rest of the season. But their uniforms make them look like they work at Baskin Robbins. And,
yes, I did see that meme.
I have not seen the one where Ferrari is dressed as McDonald's workers. I haven't seen that one, and I don't want to see it because there's nothing funny about that. Because those are fast cars and those are serious men of action.
I'm very excited to see how Ferrari is going to fare this year. There's so many interesting storylines and things that could potentially happen this year.
So supposedly Alan Prost quit at Alpine as an advisor, and supposedly what it was over was during they spent a bunch of their like preseason off-season tokens, the stuff you can use to develop your car. They spent a bunch of theirs like Ferrari did on engine upgrades. Not as they spent actually more than Ferrari did on engine changes. Motor power unit changes would be a better way to put it, because it can be any part of it. But they spent a bunch of them and during the planning stages and development stages of that, Alan Prost was uh, outvoted by the people now there that are the people now that are fired, because they fired the people who outvoted Alan Prost now, and Otmar Safnow used to be at Aston Martin and Racing Point. Now he is the head. Just before the season, he's been appointed the head to clean up the mess at Alpine. But supposedly, the new engine they have is completely unreliable, and it's because Alan Prost was downvoted when they had the vote of should we build a really powerful engine or one that's really really reliable, and he was downvoted because the other team wanted just something that was insanely powerful and might break or whatever. They wanted to win a race here and there as opposed to have a good deal over the whole season. But unreliability in Formula One, as we know, can end up costing you even later on. So even later in the season, when they might have a chance at winning some stuff or whenever at the tracks they're good at, they might have a 20 grid place penalty for something. So yeah, I think they're probably going to be chasing that this year. Aston Martin brought their car out. It looks absolutely silly as hell. I think it was the first or the second car to come out, but everybody looked at it and said, what the hell is it? It has its nose way up in the air. It looks like it's trying to channel air under the front center of the front wing into the back of the car, which would just make it a parachute to drive. And supposedly, I mean, they ran times on track, and the Williams was doing 145s, and they were doing 149s in the same conditions. So now they were wet conditions, but still, it supposedly has made Aston Martin uh, completely throw the brakes on everything they're doing and start completely trying to scrap. They can't scrap it because of obviously like fundamental deals, but change it as much as they can, because I mean, like, they have pieces that are crash tested that they can't change, you know, and so some of those pieces they have to work with most of the floor and stuff, and so they've got to find other ways to channel it there. And a lot of the other cars are built kind of like, I don't want to say like the Aston Martin, because the Aston Martin looked real stupid with its nose up like that and stuff, but I mean, the Mercedes looks like that. The McLaren looks like they obtain their, if you look at their side pods, they obtain the air in their that they're taking into the side pod to go into the floor through. There's a maximum size, and they get that size through height as opposed to width. So they have a much taller chamber, but it's far narrower. And the Ferrari and the Williams, if you look at them, they look nothing like that. And even the Red Bull, they have much more. They have at least the Red Bulls. One of the Red Bulls we've seen has a much wider side pod entry. That's also taller, and I think that's probably going to be the way to go. But we'll see.
We'll see. Cars debuting their cars, or manufacturers debuting their cars, and it's usually the first phase of this. I'm sure that the cars are going to look maybe not drastically different, but at least some changes are going to be made before the first official race. When is the first official race?
March 20. It's the last weekend in March, I think.
I'm looking it up right now.
First
Formula
weekend in
One.
last week in March, first weekend in April.
It's March. March 20th.
Yeah,
So,
that's what it said.
yeah. So we're about a month away from.
And then the next weekend after that is the the Circuit of the Americas, the Austin NASCAR race is the next weekend after that.
I believe, doesn't IndyCar come to Texas pretty early this year?
Earlier than usual, I think. I think it's like the week after that or something like that. It's very close to that same week.
Looking this up as well. Yeah, this is some good content for our listeners. But
Accurate.
these are the Sunday, March 20th. So it's gonna be the same day as the. So yeah, we're about a month away from that.
Oh, it's on the same day as the Formula One, right?
Yep.
Nice,
So
gorgeous.
we're about to be balls deep into some racing, people.
Wow, what a night of racing that will be.
For sure.
Shit, our listeners should have to have waited for that. That's damn. That's
You heard it here
the
first.
XPEL, the XPEL 375. No, you get to learn it with us, and so like this is good. This listen, that's gonna be one of the big days because let's see, we'll have the Formula One race will be in the morning, and then the IndyCar race will probably be before or maybe after the NASCAR. But the NASCAR race is that horribly named Atlanta race on the same day, the Folds of Honor or whatever it's called race. That's the NASCAR race that day
On the
too. So,
newly paved Atlanta track. Is that what you said?
oh my God, newly paved Atlanta. Atlanta's like a whole new track now.
Allegedly, they're
I
going to
haven't,
be pack racing there somehow.
I haven't even driven it on NASCAR yet. I mean, on iRacing yet. But I haven't driven a lot of stuff on this new car because something happened and for some reason wasn't allowed to drive Class A cars for a while. Something happened. I don't know. It was something. It was a glitch.
Yeah, glitch. Yeah, we'll call it that.
But it was lucky because during that whole time they were thinking that the car they were going to go with was going to be the higher downforce package on the new Cup cars, you know. And then right when I all of a sudden somehow was allowed to drive the Class A cars again, right as they switched them to the lower downforce package. And so now I'm actually driving what we're going to be driving, you know, before. But I did drive them slightly before when they were using the higher downforce package, and they were hella easier to drive then. They're much harder to drive now because the sidewalls are so small. They have better grip. It's just that the sidewalls are so small now, and the horsepower is so high that you have to be real careful with your right foot as you put down power like everywhere, even on fast tracks. Like you have to be careful uh, just putting the gas down because you'll spin the tires everywhere in these because there's just no downforce, so you don't have that extra little smush that you normally have. There's not as much downforce. There's more downforce as you go. Like as you get faster, you can feel that you're getting more and more aero grip because of the diffuser in the car. But it just doesn't feel like the tire doesn't feel like the old tire. The old tire was real hard to it was much harder to spin out because it had a bigger sidewall. This one has so much smaller of a sidewall that it's going to be, and it's a heavier wheel, so that's also going to make it that way too.
Yeah, you bought me the next gen car on iRacing, and I took it for a few laps, and I was massively uncomfortable with it, especially since I've been driving Xfinity over the past several months. So
To me, it's way easier to drive than that. But I mean, Xfinity because that's a very hard car. It's got a solid rear axle. It's easy to spin out. It's a lot easier to drive than that, but it's still its own technique. I think this season is going to be a lot harder than we thought it was going to be when they thought it was going to be the higher downforce package. I think that was going to be at a lot of places. It was going to be get it up to its new fifth gear and hold it in fifth gear all the way down, all the way around at a lot of the bigger places. And now, definitely not. Now, I think everywhere, even the really fast places like Michigan and what's somewhere that like this, I like Auto Club this weekend. I think even Auto Club this weekend is going to be a place. There's going to be, I mean, I'm gonna get on and try some this week, but I think that it's going to be a lot of getting out of the gas going into probably 3 and 4 at Auto Club, um, and then getting back to, and then it's how you get back to it and take it down the front of the travel there. It's going to be the where it's at. You know what I mean? Because it's still even in the Daytona cars, you saw it's easy even in the Daytona and Talladega cars and those it was easy to spin them out. Like it's still possible to spin them out even by yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's very possible until really get up to the full speed of it and stuff. But it's a compliant car. It drives. It drives a lot smoother. It doesn't get so loose getting in and off of corners as the old cars because it's got a rear independent suspension. So like it doesn't just all of a sudden kick and catch. It kind of morphs to a new shape as it goes it catches and you counter steer. So I like it. I think I think it's definitely an evolution, and it's definitely the evolution to go with because the previous cars were they had very little to do with anything that has to do with modern racing. You know what I mean? Like they were their own class by themselves, um, and nobody else in the world was really doing anything like that. Now we're kind of using basically what Australian V8 supercars uses, kind of German
Yes.
DTM,
Yeah,
German
you
DTM.
certainly said a lot right there. I did some test laps at Auto Club last night in the Xfinity cars, and yeah, it's like the track is so wide that you're really getting into the gas like earlier than you might think, and you're just kind of swinging it out towards the wall, and it's just about trying to build as much momentum as you possibly can.
Yeah,
And yeah, coming off of four, like you can spin out really easily.
yeah, totally. I mean, you could do that before, but I'm sure that it's more and more prevalent as you obtain more speed. Which I don't know. It remains to be seen whether they're going to be faster. I expect and hope them to be a little slower because I think it'll probably make the racing a little better. When the things are slower, they're much nobody gets away as much.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited about the Auto Club Speedway. I think the cars. I think the cars are going to be a little bit slower, and the racing is going to be a little bit better. I think that's what we saw with uh with Daytona. Is like the cars. It's the racing itself really kind of was better, um, in spite of the cars behaving differently than they usually do. Um, I, I felt like it just kind of some different strategies were playing out. You could be patient and wait back, or you can be like Brad Keselowski and just try to murder everybody in your path. But
Yeah, I think that the cars were more connectable than I thought they were going to be, but there was still the problem of, and I think this still can be addressed, like we were talking about with the hood flaps and stuff. I think the biggest problem with the racing was that the, somebody who doesn't understand what they're going to be doing out there clearly made these cars. This has happened with every single time they redesign a car, and it's every single time they redesign a plate car like that. It's a round bumper on a round rear fascia. You know what I mean? Like you can't have that. It has to be flat on flat. Otherwise, when you connect with somebody, you're going to turn them one way or the other. You know what I mean? And if anything in your wheel happens, or their wheel when you're touching, then you're going to turn them. Or you know what I'm saying? And so it's got to be changed to where there's a flat surface touching a flat surface there. I think. I didn't see as many people complaining about it as I thought, but not as many people wrecked as I thought. So all the people that were complaining were like, "Oh, he wrecked me. He wrecked me. He wrecked." I mean, yes, they did, but I think in the previous car that probably wouldn't have. It would have been more controllable because there would have been some like locking of the bumpers.
yeah, most definitely. Yeah, it's just not knowing exactly how everything was going to work within traffic, and like I said, or I was texting you a few days before the actual race, and I was really thinking that they were going to get really spread out, especially when you watch the duels and when you watch everything leading up to uh, to the
Yeah, I
actual
mean,
race. It
I
seemed
think
like
if
they
they
were
would have
getting a lot more spread out.
in the green flag pit stop situation where if you would have had like in the last stage more than one green flag pit stop in a row without a caution and then go like that was a long green flag stint, yeah, you would have seen a lot more breakaways. I think there would have been a lot smaller broken up packs, if you want to call them, like little groups and stuff. But they did a good job of sticking together too and making calls. There wasn't a lot of tire wear, so it wasn't a big problem. They brought a pretty conservative tire as far as tire wear, other than the pops. There weren't that many problems and stuff. And I wonder too. Now thinking about this is back to kind of rolling back to form. But I wonder also if the Aston Martin, we are talking about having its nose up in the air and stuff, talking about aerodynamics and how the nose connects and on I wonder if since the diffuser is down so low and there's going to be air coming. I wonder if Aston Martin didn't outthink themselves and try to do something to capture some of that air. You know what I mean with the nose, the dirty air.
Yeah,
Like and because it's such a dumb idea because you think what would shoot it down ultimately is, well, yeah, but even if we did, it would wake, it'd move the car around. Like it would move the front of the car around. Why would we want that? You know what I mean? Like I'd rather be down out of it. That's the point of these new rules and stuff. And so obviously you'd think that would be shot down then, but I wonder if they didn't outthink themselves and go, no, well, we're going to be smarter than these guys, and that's what we're going to do. I don't know. It did. When I saw it, the first thing I thought was, what is, what, like, what is this? But that's the way I felt about the McLaren that won the world championship for Lewis. When I saw that McLaren that year, when it had the one that has a rule now where we can't have movable aerodynamic pieces because it had a wing that like flexed. It had a multi-pieced wing that went across the front, and it at speed would flex to a different shape than it was at a lower speed, and his front wing. And like I didn't think that car looked fast when that happened, and that they had to make a rule against that thing. So who knows what's going to be fast? I think that the cars that look like the Ferrari are going to be fast no matter what engine they have. I think there's going to be a much more aerodynamic difference this year than there will be engine difference. Because I think Honda closed the gap last year to Mercedes, and I think someone else will this year. Maybe Renault, maybe Ferrari, probably Ferrari, but maybe Renault. But I think someone else, engine-wise, will close the gap to Ferrari. Plus, Red Bull has the new Porsche deal coming, even though now they still get to call it the Honda because a few weeks ago they signed a new deal with Honda where it's still going to be called the Honda until they start calling it a Porsche. So it was going to, not be Honda anymore. They were going to sell the rights to somebody else. And apparently Honda, they had a deal with Honda where whenever they had the deal done, they were going to offer the same amount to Honda to call it that. And Honda decided, yeah, for whatever price it was, they were going to do that. But they're still, everything is really still owned and developed by Red Bull now. So it's all in Milton Keynes.
Your boy Milton. All right, let's talk about let's talk a little bit about wrestling. The name of this episode is From Daytona to Arabia, and we had an international incident happen this weekend at a rather odd start time for us Americans. Um, but what overall was a pretty good pay per view in Elimination Chamber 2022.
Oh, like the Little Caesars meme says, WWE pay per views are pretty good when you ain't got a bitch in here telling you how bad they are. You know what I mean? Like they're pretty good. They come out pretty good. I think this one definitely did. I thought the chamber match was good. They had me the whole time because I thought Cody was there. I thought when Lashley went down, I was running around. It's happening. Like I was sure it was about to happen. So they had me on all that stuff. And I don't even like Cody Rhodes, but I'm here for anything that's gonna. I knew me and Tony Khan were doing the same thing, and that's what made me happy about it. Is me and Tony Khan were both sitting there going, "What the no? Why didn't I make him sign a no compete clause?"
That was definitely the swerve of all swerves of the entire weekend because I was definitely buying into the hype. It seemed obvious at that point that Cody Rhodes was indeed about to make an appearance, but
Well,
no.
Kenny Omega puts out like somebody asks him that is doing an interview essentially, and they ask him right before the deal, and he puts out kind of a tweet that's like, "I heard Cody's on his way to Arabia. If that makes him happy, that makes him happy." And so it sounded. Not only did it sound legit because he's saying it, but it sounded butthurt, which made it sound even more legit. And so I was, like I feel like either now I feel like either they're working us or Cody worked Kenny because why else would Kenny say that? Who did he hear it from? You know what I mean? Like, did Randy tell him? Like, who did he?
I think it could just possibly be an elaborate work within a work. You know, I think I'm not entirely opposed to the idea that AEW is working with WWE on certain things, and that there is like they've been AEW's been teasing this Forbidden Door thing, and then of course they bring in somebody from New Japan, which obviously they've brought over like five other wrestlers from New Japan. So how is it a Forbidden Door? They keep
Is that
teasing
what that was
this.
about?
They keep
Oh,
teasing
I thought it was
these.
Keith Lee.
Yeah, I mean, you have the interview.
You're right. It was what you said, but I don't know. To me, the Keith Lee thing drowned it out.
Well, obviously it did, but um, I don't know. I think that there might be some sort of like okay. I think Cody Rhodes would probably be already back at WWE, except if not for the fact that like TNT and Turner Broadcasting have Cody Rhodes on one of their other shows. Like I think that more than anything is holding
Well,
back. It's some sort of
yeah,
like.
wow, that was a real brainiac move when that came up in the meeting at Ada. They were like, "Hey, should we've got a deal? Should we do we can do a reality show on TNT? They've given us like deal. Who should we do it with? Cody, yeah, Cody. Cody's not going anywhere. Does he have a no compete club? Well, no, but he's not going anywhere. It's cool. Just yeah, get him. Do that show with him. We need a game show host too. We need to get. It's good to have Snoop too. Whoa, that's shit. Snoop, he's been in W. Shit, should we get Cody, right? Yeah, no, he's cool. He'll not go anywhere. He's been working the whole time. I've said this on previous podcasts. I've said that AEW started because Cody Rhodes saw a big, huge mark with a big, huge, checkbook in Tony, and started the whole thing so he could book himself. You know what I mean? To get back to WWE, and that's what he's done now at this point. Now, they're like now they're left in a situation. I'm not saying Tony now doesn't have some booking experience and stuff, but now or others that influence him around him. CM Punk, Brian Daniels, all those people around him. But that's what it started from to what it is now, and it shows you the coked out evolution of how this has never really meant anything more than 3 or 4 weeks ahead or behind to anybody. You know what I mean? Like everybody involved with the whole thing is not ever been thinking. They try to tell you that they're this is listen, a year ago when this feud started on Dynamite. Dynamite was around a year ago. Yeah, when that feud started, that's now we're gonna end it. Britt Baker tonight's gonna end it. Britt Baker was in an angle that you wrote that was over a year long. Well, yeah. You sure it wasn't just an injury thing and then you brought her back and then said you wrote that stuff now? No. This has been a year in the making, bro. That's the kind of stuff we do here in AEW. You are you full of shit? Because you sound like you're full of shit. You know what I mean? Like that's what it sounds like when people say that stuff. Because I don't know. Maybe it is, but if it is, wow, that's some terrible year-long storytelling. Because no one noticed until you told them. It's like when they were like, "Oh, Chris Jericho's not allowed to play his music to the ring when he faces MJF tonight. I wonder what will happen when he comes out with no music. Let's see. I wonder what will happen. I wonder." Maybe the crowd will sing for it? Yeah, no, I bet they do. I bet the crowd sings for him. I bet that's what they'll do. Let's see. Genius.
Insane. You mentioned it earlier, Keith Lee making his debut at AEW Dynamite.
Say it. So you have to say the whole thing. It's the Bearcat, Keith Lee.
The Bearcat, Keith Lee, the Meerkat.
The Meerkat, Keith Lee. Now that he's unvaxxed and in AEW and married, dude. If WWE would have had somebody working 2 or 3 days after their wedding, CM Punk would have cut a promo about it. I promise. But AEW does it. They have him debut 2 or 3 days after his wedding. No big deal. What an honor. What an honor for him to get to do this for Sir Tony.
Yeah, well, he seemed to have enjoyed himself on his honeymoon, if that really was the case, or ate like his entire groomsman cake and wedding cake or bridal cake at the wedding, because he looks like he's been inactive for the 6 months that he's been off of TV.
Well, he was legit injured, and then he didn't get vaxxed, and then he either got sick or something else from that. I know he had an enlarged heart at some point during the deal. I don't know if it was from COVID or from something else, but I know that happened
It's
during.
because he cares too much.
He has had a laundry list of injuries just since he's been in WWE, but even before WWE, going back to his days in college football, he was injured a lot at Texas A&M, and so he's got a lot of injuries. It's not it's great, but for how much AEW needs him, I think it's fine. You know what I mean? It's like when Kurt Angle went to TNA. It's like that's the kind of schedule that would be much better for him. But I think WWE could do that with people. I think if they could figure out a way to do that with people if they just broke stuff up into other deals. Drake Maverick got rehired by WWE. Supposedly now he's a writer for Raw. Don't know if that's true or not. AJ Styles re-signed a new deal that is worth somewhere between 3 and 5 years. I'm guessing 3, and it's supposed to be worth around 3 million a year. So that's a pretty good deal. We were talking earlier. I think that's a little better than Cena's best deal. I think it's certainly better than his second best deal, but it's. I'm pretty sure it's even better than Cena's best deal. Um, that's another person that like you can't let AEW get, and I've said that all along. Because he's still got a lot of tread left on the tire, and he's somebody that could teach them how to do things correctly.
Instead, they're getting Shane O'Mac.
That's the what that would not be the thing. That's way better than if Cody. The only thing better than if Cody is coming, is the first person to defect, is if the whole thing's actually a work, and Tony and Cody and the Young Bucks and the tens of people who watch their vlog and like everybody is working us like like everybody wanted the Montreal Screwjob to be. There's like there's a whole sect of people that wanted the Montreal Screwjob to actually have been a work, where Vince and Brett did all that stuff as acting to sell it so that Brett could go and infiltrate WCW and take it down from the inside or whatever. But
Well, he did a pretty good.
obviously,
He did a pretty good job. That's
he just didn't do it. When he got there, he was like, "No, it looks they've got it under control.
I feel
Sir,
like
they've got it under control. I don't want to mess anything up."
I feel like the modern day equivalent of that is Matt Hardy.
On the vlog the other day, they made him take a drug test. Did you see that?
Matt Hardy?
Yeah,
Oh.
the Young Bucks made him take a drug test.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Tony's cool with this. Tony's totally cool with this. Those guys, man. When did like what was the time when it happened? I didn't notice, but it is obviously coming past since Cody's leaving and stuff like that, and they don't care. And like Adam Cole comes out and like now can't, like couldn't just can't recapture what he was doing before with literally all the same pieces and stuff. Like there was it came and passed where just there was a week where all of a sudden they care way more about their vlog than they ever will any AEW show that's ever happened or will happen. Like they care way more about that than they do about any of the AEW stuff. And that when that happened, that was really like when Cody and a lot of other people, I'm sure, were like, you know what, I'm going to use this life raft to life raft away from here. This ship is listing violently.
Yeah, Adam Cole losing to Orange Cassidy. I'm gonna be interested in hearing, 10, 20 years from now, like the actual story of like, the shoot interviews after some of these people have left the wrestling business, and some of the information that they're gonna be able to dispel about what actually has been transpiring. Although I don't know. I mean, like you mentioned, Adam Cole is in AEW, and now he does have the Undisputed Era around him, and it's like nobody cares. Like I forget about it. It's like, oh yeah, he does. The Undisputed Era is like an AEW, and it's like
the way that you can tell that everybody like is understands that like their jobs are on the line and that they need to like do whatever it is that needs to be done, like whatever like is because like right now, and to me the thing that you can tell that makes it so obvious is all the people who when they're in a podcast, in an interview, when they're anywhere, all the people that at any given time since the beginning of AEW say, "I love it here. Tony Khan's great. Everything's better than it was in WWE. I like this. This is great. Everything's perfect. I love being with my friend." Everybody that says that stuff gets booked to the front of the line. Gets booked at the beginning of the show, at the end of the show, a couple times in between, on all the pay-per-views, at the end of you know what I mean? Everybody there gets booked. Everybody then, if they quit saying that for any reason over and over repeatedly, then they move to the back of the line, including Cody and the Young Bucks and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like up to and including them. Like if at any point it becomes not loud enough, then they automatically get booked back, and then it becomes about like, oh, I'm gonna show you. It's like with Jerry Jones, and now he doesn't build through free agency. He builds through the draft because he wants you to go, oh, look what he did. You know what I mean? He wants you to go, oh look, because if he goes out and gets somebody, if he goes out and gets a quarterback or somebody that is already done good in the league and pays for them and brings them in, then it's on him. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Tony does with this. Is Tony's brought in these people, and everybody said now, oh yeah, all these people are just people that he's brought in because Vince, made them big stars, and now he's bringing in all these. And so Tony brings in somebody like Hook. Oh, look at Hook. This guy's just a monster. This guy's look at that. That's James Dean right there, folks. He's a killer. He's a killer. He's a killer. He could kill almost anyone on a sixth grade playground, folks. Look at that man. And that's what, but it's because he wants you to say, look what I found. Look at, like Dan House, look at Orange Cassidy. Look what I found. Look what I did. They didn't bring this here. They didn't have anything. I brought this here. I did this. This is mine. And that's kind of the way, when he has the chance, that's the way Tony tries to book. And sometimes he fails and sometimes he wins. But when he wins, he tells you about it. You know what I mean? Like, he makes sure others tell you about it. He reposts.
Just win, baby. You gotta post those Meltzer awards. You gotta put them high on your mantelpiece. You gotta make sure that everybody knows that, hey,
He owns an NFL team. I mean, he's literally the general manager of an NFL team.
I mean, the Jaguars are like a JV equivalent of an NFL team.
The Jaguars are like the XFL of NFL teams.
Yeah.
The Jaguars had Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow on their team, on their roster last year. They paid them money.
I'm pretty sure
both
Washington had to
in a bar. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm pretty sure Washington had to buy the trademark of Commanders from an XFL team, didn't they?
I don't know. I hope so. I didn't know about that, but the XFL announced that it is going to be essentially a partnership league with WWE when it comes back. I mean, with WWE, with NFL when it comes back. It's gonna let the NFL test equipment and rule changes, basically. Like in their games, they're gonna like be open, not everything, but they're gonna be open to letting the NFL do stuff like that in exchange for more cooperation, and that's how they're gonna get their TV deal and stuff. Because The Rock doesn't Red whatever it's called, the Rock's production company that makes all the movies and stuff. They bought the XFL. They don't have any contacts that aren't already NFL affiliated that have TV deals, so they're going to have to get their TV deal with somebody that's already, you know what I mean? And so that's basically what they've said they're going to do. The something starts this year, doesn't it, or is it
USFL.
start? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, like, every time there's a new league, it's starting because it's about to end too.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how often those two things coincide.
Well, it's a business model at this point.
Yeah, for real.
It's like those pop-up flag sales on the side of the road. That's a business model. We're going to be gone tomorrow because somebody's going to be pissed about that flag, and that flag.
Like that episode of The Simpsons when Bart's getting his ear piercing, and the guy's like, "Better hurry up! They're about to bulldoze this building to make a Starbucks." And then he's walking out with his ear piercing and a Starbucks cup in his hand. And just every store in the mall is a Starbucks. Anyway, lots of interesting things happening in the world of wrestling. We got WrestleMania coming down the pipe.
EC3's new organization.
I know. I'm excited about that too. So
man,
he's saying they're like about to take off to being like a national, like actual wrestling brand.
Whoever's on the front row of those shows would be a straight up badass. That's all I'm saying. Those people, whoever would be there watching, like right there at that. You talk about tie-dye guy and sign guy and those guys, amateurs. Whoever's on the front row of that EC3 show, that's wow.
EC3 basically took the Fight Club that Shane O'Mac had like around the pandemic era when they were doing empty arena stuff. Like Shane O'Mac was doing that like after hours like UFC thing, like during Raw or whatever. Like EC3 basically took that and like made his own brand out of it, you know. So that's some good recycling.
It's cool. It's like when John Moxley had Edge before he, didn't.
Mox. That's what they call him on WWE. Mox. The third
That's
member
what
of the
Pat.
Shield, Mox.
That's what Pat McAfee calls him all the time. Oh my God, Pat! I just want to hear what happens in his ear when what Vince says in his ear when he does that, like on pay per views on TV. He's just, Mox this, Mox that. Oh my God! It's just boom! I bet Vince's head is just exploding. Somebody's backstage just hitting the mute button on Vince's mic.
Yeah, that F5 from the top of the pod, they gotta find something else to call the pods, because pod just like does not sound very
Nope.
intimidating. F5 from the pod. Like they should at least call it like a miniature cage. Like I think miniature cage sounds more intimidating than pod.
It was a hard bump. That you're
It
talking
was a
about the one
very
theory.
hard bump. Although he did kind of take it on his feet, which was good to see, because like how else are you gonna take that bump? But yeah, that was pretty impressive, to say the very least.
Dude, I know how much money Brock Lesnar has. If I would have taken that bump, I'd have tried to take that bump on my face. Because if I'd have gotten paralyzed, Brock Lesnar was gonna pay for that. Like, come on, dude. Because if he's got that much, I know who he got it from, and so one of them, between the two of them, I'm getting paid. You know what I mean? And I'll probably finally get to finish some shows or something. You know, like get to watch stuff. Me and what's his name? Draws, is that the guy? We can hang out. Me and the guy from
Yeah,
we can hang out and stuff. You
he's
know,
got
like I'm taking that on my face if I'm theory.
he's got a good life. You know, he just has to do the occasional interview.
Dark Side of the Ring hit piece. He's got to do hit pieces.
But yeah, I know WWE has the propensity of pushing their new talent and actually building talent. You know, but knowing that Brock Lesnar pretty much gets his pick of who he wants to work with and has certainly a lot of pull when it comes to finishes and things of that nature. I thought that him working with Austin Theory is pretty cool. Hopefully, Austin Theory keeps stepping up in his journey on the main roster.
I mean, you'd think if you were a wrestler that and Brock Lesnar wanted to work with you that you'd do anything to do that. But I guess the Keith Lee thing proves that maybe not. That's not true. So who knows? Maybe Keith Lee knows something we don't. Maybe he's gonna outsmart all of us on this. He's a Bearcat, dude.
Outsmart everyone. That's Christian's new slogan.
Because he can't be outworked because he hasn't had a match in 2022, and he hasn't won a match since the match that he won for the belt on. I think that was his first match on TV on that debut episode. He hasn't won a match since then.
He won the TNA title.
Well, he hasn't won a match on AEW TV. But hey, outwork everyone.
Just win the TNA title, and then just that's the cherry on top of your career.
Yeah, whatever needs to be said to hype him up. He's like what we just said, or whatever somebody said that could hype him up better than me. Outwork whatever. He's gonna have to say all that stuff while Edge and Styles are working at Mania, because he's gonna be sitting. It's gonna be he's gonna be like this is like when I was in Nashville with TNA a long time. It's like this is exactly like that. And Edge was going off of TLC ladders with Cena. Yeah. Huh. I remember. First time, huh?
Indeed. Who did? So so you guessed earlier that Cody was going to be the mystery opponent for Edge at WrestleMania. Like, is that actually your pick? Who is your pick for Edge's mystery opponent? Stone Cold.
I think it's gonna be AJ Styles. Have
you heard these rumors about Stone Cold?
Yeah, I've heard that. I think if he comes back, he'll work with Kevin Owens, don't you?
That would be interesting, but Kevin Owens is like in a tag team with Seth Rollins. You figured there'd be some sort of tag team action going on.
But why else that promo that Kevin Owens cut like a week ago or 2 weeks ago on Texas, where he just like dumped all over? Why else would he do that? You know what I mean? Like that was the only point to do that, was to set that up to me. And he has the stunner now, and that's what it's going to become about. Is kind of like the stunner thing.
Well, what if they do a tag match? What if it's like Stone Cold and JBL versus Owens and Rollins? That'd be interesting.
Possible. I think they'd do somebody better than JBL, maybe, but I don't know. Maybe
they have to be from Texas, though. Undertaker.
Yeah, yeah, Undertaker. Yeah, no, that's a good one. No, I don't know. I don't know who he's gonna, but I think he is gonna do something, and I think that But but the original question was Edge, and I think Edge's opponent, like I said about Christian, I think Edge's opponent is going to be Styles at Mania. No, I mean I don't have it. That's just unsubstantiated. I'm just guessing, but that's what I think. And as far as who, I don't know. I don't know who else would work with. Yeah, like I don't know what Rollins and people would do if it's like that because it's I don't know. The only thing that's really for sure, and they're gonna build that is that, and that's the right thing to do. Is second night is gonna be belt Lesnar and um Roman Reigns, but they did curiously book Bobby Lashley in a title match against Brock Lesnar at something that happens right before Mania. There's another thing, I can't remember what it is, but there is a thing that they advertise, and they have it booked now. It's like I don't remember where it is, maybe Madison Square Garden or something. But there is
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is. I remember them saying something about that. Because yeah, it seems like you
that's a
know,
spot where they switch the belt sometimes. You remember that's where
yeah.
they took the belt. They a long time ago in the early '90s they put it on Diesel. You know, at
Mhm.
that like, they had him just beat Bret Hart out of nowhere at that, and so it happens. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's like it's we're still in February. It's not like they're going to go all of March without having some sort of an event. So that would make sense that we might get a title change there. I just think they're going to work it into some way where it's going to be a triple threat match. If history has shown us anything, is that they really like main event triple threat matches, and they also like putting Roman Reigns over. So, but they also like putting Brock Lesnar over. It's not looking good for Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. I really don't. But I like that I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, I think that's a good thing. I also like that I don't know where Cody's gonna do his thing and if he's gonna do anything and if it's a work, all that stuff. I like all this. This is all good.
It's just intrigue.
The person who it's best for right now, until it's bad for him, until something happens and it's embarrassing, the person who it's best for is AEW. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because I mean they're getting attention. I don't know, people that maybe otherwise don't like AEW, not necessarily don't watch, but like know about it and don't like it necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Like people who are critics of it, like myself, are still interested in AEW stuff now more than they otherwise would be because of the intrigue of that going on. So it doesn't help anybody more than it helps AEW until it doesn't. Until they do something. Until they have Cody come out and I don't know, break a Jacksonville Jaguars logo with a sledgehammer or something. I don't know.
Well, I don't like AEW, but I like that Dan Lambert. I like his promos, man. He really gets it.
He's easily the best heel in AEW. Maybe all of wrestling. No, he's not. But he is easily the best AEW heel. Oh man, he's so good. And that's how you feel like this has to be. It's not a work. Is they wouldn't have been sending Brandy out there 2 weeks ago to do those train wreck promos where they send Dan Lambert out to try and salvage them with her if they didn't think she was going to be around and Cody was going to be around. You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't have been doing those because they went nowhere and they didn't move. They didn't do anything. You know what I mean? They were like the what Tony likes to probably call the beginning of programs, but they're really just like, I didn't really write anything for you guys. Here, go out there and do this. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And that's what those were. And they're terrible. And he wouldn't have done those if it wasn't like, well, I've got to do one for Brandy.
Yeah, yeah. The Brandy Dan Lambert segments have been interesting, very very interesting. All right, we're approaching 1 hour. This has been the very first episode of Mark at the Moon, the new podcast from DMPunk and me, Ryan Mooney. Let's get a sign off. Anything that you want to say? Signing off here, DMPunk.
Fuck Russia.
Fuck Russia. Frussia. All right, guys. All right, comrades. Until next time. I hope my video didn't just crash. But until next time, everybody, appreciate everybody for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Be on the lookout, subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you next time.